Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Kai McEwen, joined by the rest of the three-man weave crew, Jim Root and Matt Cox. Every Wednesday morning, we'll be dropping a new BBOC episode talking all things betting in the world of college hoops. On today's episode, we're going to discuss some key games of the week, both the power and mid-major level, give you some takes on spreads, do our classic six-pack as we did last season, with some live dogs, with some blowout cities, highlighting a special spotlight section that we'll get to at the end of the episode. A fantastic look ahead coming up right this second. Let's get started. Fellas, we're looking at live dogs of the week to start us off. Last season, we did pretty well on these on this section, identifying dogs that can win outright. If they didn't win outright, they usually covered the spread. This is all anecdotal, but I'm going to go with it that we were very, very good. I picked out a few. You guys let me know if you want to add some, but we're starting with Wednesday. Northern Iowa against North Carolina in the Bahamas. Now, the Panthers have not looked great, but I think they can hang. I think they have a coaching edge. You got Rice against New Mexico in Henderson, Nevada. Rice, we know, is a high variance team. Maybe Jalen House still out for New Mexico. And then finally, Purdue, Fort Wayne. They're at San Francisco, tough travel, but Fort Wayne, talented guards, already beat DePaul. Fellas, what do you think of those three? You taking any? You leaving them? What do you got, Jim?
Kai, I'm jumping on my Owls. You know, I've been a Rice guy leading up to this season. I think that's like you said, very high variance game. Rice is a big time 3-point shooting team. So you could get the real hot performance that projects them into the lead. I think their game against Texas was sneaky competitive. They shot terribly from three, and Texas was actually, making shots from the perimeter, and they still covered that game, only lost by 16 on a 20-point spread. And I think true score of that was a lot closer. And yeah, the Jalen House thing matters. Matt, I know you love Donovan Dent, and you'll probably sing his praises. He's a great replacement for Jalen House, but I think Rice has got a lot more athleticism this year. They brought in a fringe top 100 recruit in Keanu Dawes. They brought in a couple transfers from power conference level that amp up what they already brought back. I like Rice, Matthew. It's going to be kind of a shootout, but I'm riding that one with Kai at the +9 or maybe even a little bit lower.
Yeah, Selden, the Gardner-Webb transfer, was a beast. I watched him against Texas, and I was like, I'm going to hop all over Rice with my boy Jimbo. But then I kind of had this epiphany that looking good against Texas isn't really looking that good at all.
Valid.
So that's my concern. Kai,
So,
I'm
hey,
with
Selden,
you.
I'll drop, that's Wayne Selden's little brother from
Is it really?
Kansas.
Like, that makes total sense. He
Yep.
built like an absolute brick house.
Yep.
He does everything. Yeah, he's a good complement to that kind of finesse type team. Kai, I'm with you on Purple Panthers. That's going to be my official ad here. I've been just completely underwhelmed with them so far. So maybe this is just a stubborn sticking to my guns too tightly, but I believe this is a good basketball team, and my loins and my plumes. I believe that is the truth. They just not made shots. I feel like this is a good shooting team. Like, this is a team that should be able to make outside shots. They have like 3 or 4 legit good shooters. They were like 0 of 30 against South Florida from 3. They clawed back against North Texas, going into the super pit and playing them to overtime despite a lot of things going against them. I think they get North Carolina into sort of a slower type of execution type game. And if you get North Carolina, out of their comfort zone, and you're going to probably get a pretty good price on this game too, money line wise, because you probably have an inflated tempo baked in because of UNC. I like you, and you and I here. So I'm trying to think I'm doing my little estimates what the price should be, but that's my pick of the litter here, Mr. McKeon.
I like it. You and I due for some shooting regression, some positive shooting regression. Just 25% from 3 this year. They are way better than that. And opponents are shooting 42% from 3 against them. North Texas and South Florida were both hitting shots. And I think it's not a bad game here. I'm not a huge Hubert Davis guy. That's well documented. But fair enough. I'm going with Rice as well with Jim. I do think you and I covers, so I'll maybe ride the fence on that one.
Yeah, that's where I'm at on that game. I don't think I'm going to touch the money line with Northern Iowa, but I think they compete. Like, it's just, like you said, a team's kind of underperformed, and I have not been very whelmed by North Carolina when I've watched them. They were up like 3 against Lehigh late in the second half or midway through, and suddenly realized they were way bigger and more athletic and started to pound the rock inside. But just don't get warm fuzzy. So I think Northern Iowa hangs, especially if the number is 12, like Ken Palm has.
On money line, Kai, you should get about 5-1 plus 500 on UNI, and then about 4-1 plus 400 for for Rice if the market tracks closely with KenPom. I have no reason to believe it won't for those two games. I think those are two fairly properly priced teams, I guess. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. Next section, Blowout City.
I wanted to slip one more in, Kai. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wednesday, Fairleigh Dickinson taking on Queens. I think this is a little bit like the Rice New Mexico game where it's going to be up and down. Two teams that love to run. Fairleigh Dickinson's already been fairly competitive this year. Fairly, they beat Buffalo, but Buffalo might stink. I just am not super sold on Queens yet. They lost key piece from last year, Kenny Dye at point guard, and they've got some injuries early this year that haven't really sorted themselves out, down a couple of starters. So Fairleigh Dickinson could be a little better than the market's price in the Madden. I like that one too. So along with eating my big bowl of rice and you and I to cover, I'm taking Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah, Queen's another guy out. Seabach missed last game too. So they're down Rains, Matthews, and Seabach. Good luck finding any information there. If all those three guys are out again, Fairleigh Dickinson, not a bad look. Agreed. Matt, you good? Next section?
I'm good. One and done for me. Yeah.
All right. Blowout City. Here we go. Games we like in absolute, blowout fashion. Blowout City, hence the name. Wednesday, not a lot of options this week just because of feast week. Usually some pretty good matchups. But we got two big spreads coming up. Mizzou is one of them. They host South Carolina State, and then Kansas State hosts Central Arkansas. Well, Mizzou is where Jim and I went, and they are off a horrible loss to Jackson State. South Carolina State's kind of in the middle of a massive road trip. They've been blown out before this season. They lost by 44 to South Florida. So hoping the Tigers are a little bit angry here, ready to bounce back and pour it on them. That's kind of the angle there. And then Kansas State, while Central Arkansas has been weirdly competitive with some teams, they still don't have Cameron Hunter, their best player. I think the Octagon of Doom is going to swallow the Purple Bears. So I probably like Kansas State a little bit better than Mizzou there, Jim, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Kansas State's the one I like. I don't have a lot of faith in Mizzou's ability to blow teams out right now. The offense isn't that good, and there's just like some weird rotational issues where they don't know which lineups are good. They're playing so many guys trying to figure it out, and it feels like half their guys are good at offense and half are good at defense, and they don't know how to mesh those things and come up with some sort of balanced lineup. So Mizzou, I'm not really trusting. Central Arkansas, I think, is not good. They hung real close with Southeast Missouri State on Monday night. I think that's more representative of SEMO's issues than anything. And K-State coming back from their MTE, I think they're going to just smash. I think there's incentive there to do it after a loss down in, I think it was the Bahamas.
Yes.
They were playing the Baha Mar. Yeah. So, yeah, Matt, I think K-State's a good one. And on Thursday, I actually also like Iowa State to blow out VCU, but that's a whole nother story. We don't have to dig too far into that game. It's not as big of a spread. It's 11 on KenPom. What about you, Matthew?
I'm going to throw it in there for Friday, actually. And, not a team that people think are probably super high on this year. LSU, sort of, they looked in disarray for a lot of this season. They've already lost to a bad team at home. So you could argue it's almost a good money line counterpoint here. But they're playing North Florida. And North Florida has played zero good teams so far this year. And when they have played good teams in the past, under Matthew Driscoll, even with more talent than they have this season, they've been blown out. They just don't have any sort of like actual size and athletes. They played Gonzaga last year. It just stinks, right? Like bigger teams can just gobble up offensive rebounds. So you have like, if you make shots, you're going to crush them. If you don't, you can still get your second and third chances and still crush them. And LSU is enormous up front. We saw that play out against Wake in, was it Utah Utah in the Charleston. So yeah, I think LSU balls this team, and I'm a little worried that they're going to come back fat and happy after 2 wins in that tournament, Jim, kind of counter to your point about K-State, but I just think the matchup here is too juicy to pass up. So LSU laying whatever number against the Birds of Trey, which will be Birds of Prey very shortly.
Here's your North Florida's margins last year playing up against good power conference teams. Lost by 41 to Gonzaga, lost by 40 to Kentucky, lost by 34 to Houston, lost by 36 to Pitt. So 34 or more all four times.
Right. Hopefully you get 20, high 20s or less would be great for the price there. Yeah.
Just a quick one there, Matt. LSU lost to Dayton and they beat North Texas and
that's right.
Wake Forest. Yeah. Competitive really all three games.
All three games. Yeah.
I faded them all three games. So that's a 1-2 record right there. Okay. Next section is our power games of the week. But first, a word from our sponsor. BBOC is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, fellas, power game of the week. Starting with Wednesday, we don't really know the Maui matchups quite yet, but that's clearly the best game maybe of the entire season, because we are going to see the winner of Tennessee Purdue and Kansas Marquette. The spreads would tell you, if you go with the favorites today, Matthew, that Purdue will play Kansas, and boy, would that matchup be sweet. Thoughts, I guess, on Maui the next couple of days. We'll frame it as that, Matt.
Yeah, my angle here is just other than enjoying college basketball at its highest level, of course, although some of those games in the opening slate are pretty ugly early on. But Kansas, I'm looking to fade. And I'm not saying Kansas is not a good team, but in this matchup where a severe lack of depth has kind of reared its ugly head so far, we were there in person. We heard Bill Self talk about it in the flesh of the Champions Classic. He sort of gives off that, like, I am concerned about our team in certain situations vibe. And I think this is one of those with minimal bodies on back-to-back games. That's kind of my angle here. Fading Kansas at the end of this tournament here, Jim. Not that I think they're a fade long term, but just situationally, it seems like they're going to crack against some of these deeper, high caliber teams.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Gonzaga also, despite Jay Billis insisting that they were 10 deep, which is insane because they only have 9 healthy scholarship players and they're playing 7. They're playing 7. They're like 355th in bench minutes as we record this right now. So that is not a deep team. Their 2 guards, Hickman and Nembhard, play like all 40 minutes basically every game. So I think Gonzaga might be worth a look at a fade or maybe even an under on the last day, just because I think they're going to have to play a little bit slower. Now, Kai, in the championship, like you said, as we record this on Tuesday, we don't know the matchup, but Purdue, Kansas, the likely matchup based on spreads. I can't wait to see Zach Edey versus Hunter Dickinson. I mean, the two favorites right now, front runners for National Player of the Year, considering the numbers they're putting up, just two smashing each other, kind of a Kaiju versus Jaeger for a Pacific Rim comparison there, Kai. Just monsters going at each other in the paint. I don't think I have much of a lean, maybe a little bit with Matt. So a fade of Kansas. And I think Purdue is actually looking a little better, but DeJuan Harris harassing Braden Smith still scares me a little bit. Need to see a little more out of Purdue's point guard before I completely hop on board there.
Yeah, TBD on that one for me. Dickinson and Edey, of course, played last year, right? Purdue, Michigan, both had great games. I expect kind of the same story. I'd lean to Purdue in that one. I'm not so sure Kansas gets past Marquette today as we record, but that's another story for another day.
I like that. Something that could age terribly.
Yes.
Slip it in there. That's good. That's good.
Thursday, we have a really good matchup. It's Michigan State and Arizona. It's in Palm Springs, so we had a neutral here. Arizona is favored by 6 on KenPom, and they look like a juggernaut so far this season, Jim. Could be the best team in the country. They've done nothing wrong. They've been blowing teams out. They should. They beat Duke at Duke. And Sparty, as most people know, has started very, very slow. Tyson Walker missed last game. We're not totally sure about his status, but they just haven't looked very good in general. Been shooting like crap. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I know Tyson Walker's been a little bit banged up, and I think they announced it was illness was why he missed, but it did feel like let's just sit him, rest him. And it might have been awesome for Michigan State because it forced everybody else to step up, and they couldn't just stand and pass the ball to Tyson and hope. And they came out and torched Alcorn State, like right from the jump. They were all over him. Might been good for their confidence, but Matt, I'm not going against Arizona. I think Kai might be on to something with potentially the best team in the country. They've got size, they've got versatility, they've got incredible guard playmaking. Caleb Love is actually folded seamlessly into this defense and isn't chucking offensively the way I was sort of concerned that he would. Keyshawn Johnson's just given them so much more lineup versatility. And they've kind of got a little bit of Sonogo clinging with Ballo and Krivas. Like you just cannot rest on your laurels at all with the way they go after the glass. And Matt, I just don't love how Michigan State has looked. I don't think they're anywhere near firing on all cylinders. AJ Hoggard is kind of a shell of himself right now, and he's more of an attitude guy than a production guy. You can't have that going against Arizona. So like 6.5, and even if it's shaded up from the Ken Palm line of 6, I would probably lay it with Arizona.
Man, I feel like this could get bet up to like some stupid like 8 or 9 number just with the way the teams have looked.
Then it's I can't touch it.
I there's a number where I would bet Sparty, but I feel like that number is like 13 or something stupid, right? You're not going to see 13 in this game. I just bet against Arizona foolishly last game. Feeling pretty good about myself. The Mavs, UT Arlington were nearby, had a good spot there. They were up 28-26, I think, late in the first half. I think only down a handful at the half, and then a 50-5 run, Kai. 50-5 run. So yeah, I was my plus 28 was quickly not even competitive. Arizona has that spurt ability this year, right? And I think we've seen them do it against the big boys. Literally went into Duke and did it. So they've proven all you can prove. You can't really question or nitpick anything about their roster. Even get some partial home here. Yeah, I think Arizona minus the big number is probably where I'm looking at.
And then real quick, guys, Atlantis does start on Wednesday. General thoughts on the tournament. We talked, you and I, North Carolina, a little bit. I kind of like Michigan, Jim, frankly. I think they're an awesome team. They lost to Long Beach, so maybe what they showed early is not sustainable. But I think I'm looking there. I'm looking at Texas Tech as well, because I really think Grant McCaslin's an incredible coach. Villanova's look shaky, and North Carolina, again, don't really trust them with Hubert Davis.
Yeah, that's a spot I like is Texas Tech against Villanova in that first round. I think I'll probably end up on the Red Raiders in that one, because I think McCaslin can coach circles around Neptune. Kind of that other side of the bracket, the bottom half, Arkansas was kind of the presumed like, all right, this is the best team on this half. But I would argue that Memphis and Michigan have both looked better than Arkansas, who dropped a bye game to UNC Greensboro. Stanford is kind of banged up, so I'm not expecting much out of them. But I think your finalists are between whoever wins Michigan and Memphis, because those two have kind of figured things out a little more, Matthew. So probably betting Texas Tech first round, and then either Michigan or Memphis in that second round game against probably still Arkansas. I'll be betting that team.
Kai, no Northern Iowa endorsement from us here. Probably too big of a
not to win the whole thing, but I think they can beat UNC, as we discussed at the top of the show. Yeah,
I agree with Jim's point on Michigan versus Memphis. However, Michigan losing to Long Beach State at home is obviously eye-opening, and then Memphis hasn't really done much either. I think that win against your Missouri Tigers is quickly losing its luster as the days go by. So I kind of went back to my UNI love as like just sort of a Hail Mary flyer on that one. Actually, you can find some pretty good, the whole percentages on these tournaments are actually pretty good. So you actually get pretty good value betting the pre-tournament as opposed to doing like a money line rollover strategy here. I still like Michigan though. I think actually that loss sets up well for them to come out ultra focused. And I don't think Memphis is going to play any sort of weird zone that they saw against Long Beach. So I think it's just a good matchup, good spot. I like Michigan to get out of that first round game. And that's probably my pick to win that tournament.
All righty. Moving on. Mid-major game of the week. Got some good ones. On Wednesday, we have UC Irvine and Toledo in Henderson, Nevada. Both great teams. KenPom has this as UC Irvine -3. Little clash of styles here. We have the offensive juggernauts that are Toledo. Even this season, despite losing some pretty good players from last year, they are once again among the best offenses in the country, not just among the mid-major teams. And then UC Irvine, of course, always stalwart defensively, already have a huge win against USC. And then also that day on Wednesday, Harvard goes to Colgate. Little 3-point spread here as well, per KenPom in favor of Colgate. Harvard been excellent this year against the spread. They're 3-1. Their one loss coming to Boston College following a massive UMass win in overtime. And then Colgate,
tough turnaround there for Harvard. You got to forgive them playing back-to-back against in-state rivals.
Absolutely. And then Colgate went through a mini mid-major gauntlet in Canada. Gardner-Webb and Yale, they just traded body blows the entire time in that tournament. Weaver State as well. Still a good team, still looking to kind of rediscover their shot from last couple seasons. They've started off kind of cold this year. So Matt, your thoughts on these two mid-major games?
Yeah, Toledo game has my interest for sure. Like their offense is awesome. Their defense is still very, very questionable. And as much as I like this rocket ship bunch, I mean, they have put up points against Detroit Mercy, Louisiana, and Wright State. I wouldn't call those three vaunted defenses by any stretch either. UC Irvine, they're not exactly the defensive fortress that they were under Turner for many years, but they can still guard. They have more size, I think better defensively than any of those three teams. I like Irvine in that spot because it's closer. Nevada to California, obviously a little bit easier to travel as well. So I'll probably lean the Eaters in that one, but no official play. And God, even Colgate's, like, you could argue it's a good spot, but it's also just a terrible spot traveling back from Canada, as hard as it was to get to New Brunswick too. So I want no part of the Raiders, honestly, until conference play. That's kind of my approach with Colgate in general, betting wise.
Yeah, I love Harvard as an underdog. They're fantastic. It's something like a 63% bet with Tommy Amaker in charge. As an underdog, going all the way back to his days there. They just play up really, really well. And Malik Mack has been such a infusion of life into their offense in the backcourt. Like, they just didn't have much of a creator in past years. Now they've got that to go with all the athleticism that they've had for years and years. Definitely lean towards Harvard there. Matt, and the other one, you lean towards the Eaters, but we got to introduce the listeners to Toledo Faders Anonymous, TFA, the group that I have started and instituted that is for people who incessantly bet against Toledo and should not do it. Don't do it. We encourage you not to. Toledo is 3-0 against the spread this year, covering by an average of 8 points a game. They are the best ATS team in the country over the past 2+ seasons. I have no interest in betting against them, Kai. I make that closer to a pick. I think Irvine might be a little overvalued because beating USC without Boogie Ellis or Kobe Johnson. Yeah. So that one actually numerically leans towards the Rockets for me.
I also like Toledo leaning that way, and Harvard is where I lean as well. I think Matt's right with the travel coming back for Colgate. They are due to start shooting better, but man, Harvard as a dog is tough. I think they have a pretty good team this season. So that's where I lean. All right, Trash Man pick of the week. Just one. The ultimate trash pile. That's the rules in this section. Again, some pretty good games this week. Not a whole lot to choose from, but I went dumpster diving and I found Maryland Eastern Shore at Notre Dame.
You found the right one, Kai.
Yes.
I approve. Stamp of approval of this choice.
Why is this a trash man pick of the week? Well, UMES, Maryland Eastern Shore, is a bottom 5 offense in the country. They're sort of known for a grittier style of basketball. Not super fun to watch, but they can be scrappy dogs. They beat Penn already this season. There's some magic over there, that school, that they can just beat good teams. And then Notre Dame, still a very young team, still clearly learning how to play together. They just beat Oklahoma State, a very good win. Prior games looked pretty ugly. And they play a very slow style under Shrewsbury. I don't think he's necessarily going to try to run quicker in this game, despite the opponent. So, Matt, it's just not going to be a very fun game to watch.
No, it's not. I mean, I backed the Irish twice in that Barclays thing, and it went well the second game. But they certainly are. They look like a mid-major team at times. There's no question about it. And UMass, man, they've been kind of a feisty dog historically. Like, I don't know if this version is as good as the last couple of years, but I think if you have to get involved, I'd probably take UMass and close your eyes.
UMass is a good acronym.
UMass. I don't want to lay a lot of points with this Notre Dame team. I don't think they're going to be a good favorite given their talent level. Better chance of slowing it down and mucking it up and being out coaching opposing teams. That's the spot I want to look for Notre Dame. KenPom projects this at 69 possessions. I would wager a decent chunk of change it is lower than that. It will land somewhere around like 65. I don't think Notre Dame really loves to speed things up, and UMass is going to try to muck it up and make it messy, easier to cover in that kind of a grittier game like Kai mentioned. So I definitely lean towards the underdog in this one, and probably going to bet the under, Kai. I just think it's going to be a slog.
That's where my opinions lie as well. Well said. All right, last section, spotlight. We're spotlighting the early hot and not ATS teams. So talking about records, talking about cover margin, and maybe some opinions on if they're for real or if it's sort of an aberration. So the 5-0 crew, there are 3 teams in the country that are currently 5-0 against the spread. They are Arizona, Oakland, Oakland 5-0, and Mississippi State. Now, Arizona sporting almost a 15-point cover margin, which is bonkers through a 5-game sample, but Oakland right behind at 11, Mississippi State a little more reasonable, plus 6.5. All 3 teams have looked fantastic. Jim, we saw Mississippi State in person. We've watched Arizona on TV, and man, the Fighting Great Campies at Oakland, a bit of a surprise, I would say, to start.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Matt wax poetic about his Golden Grizzlies because he wrote them up for the Almanac this preseason. Hey, if you haven't bought that, why not? Go for it.
Plenty of time.
But Oakland's a whole different animal. But the two power conference teams here, Arizona, we already said we think there's a chance they're the number one team in the country. The way that Lloyd has fit the roster has been really, really impressive. It seems like Caleb Love's kind of sacrificed the ego, and they can play so many different ways, Matt, and that's something they couldn't do in the past. In the past, it was play fast, pound you inside with their two big lineup, and if you can mess with their guards a little bit and Kirk Krisa's turnover issues, then you could take them out of rhythm. Kylan Boswell is much better than Kirk Krisa. He is more of a cerebral point guard. I'm sorry if that's too much shade at Mr. Krisa there, but he's more measured. He's steadier. He's not as prone to emotional outbursts as Krisa, and I love that.
He's just better. He's better.
Agreed. Love the center rotation they've got there. And then Mississippi State, I mean, they're ridiculous defensively, and they're playing without their best big man, Tolu Smith, but they're just everywhere with all kinds of athletes and length. And Josh Hubbard and Trey Fort have given them the offensive punch that they needed in the backcourt. And their shooting isn't as completely dire and terrible as it was last year. So yeah, Matt, you were kind of in on the Bulldogs preseason, even with or without Tolu Smith, and you have been proven very, very correct.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to see Jimmy Bell get so much usage the rest of the year. I feel like that's sort of a ticking time bomb. Like just that guy is a load, but obviously a very poor man's version of Tolu Smith, and I feel like they feature him too much. But yeah, the new additions have clearly opened up this offense, and they still guard like gangbusters. So to me, I think the Oakland, it's such a unique team. Like you have Jack Golke, who has attempted 57 threes this year, not a single 2-point jump
57.
shot. 19 of 57
through 5 games,
through 5 games. You have Trey Townsend, who's their best player, kind of like this weird tweener Swiss Army knife. He's just like really hard to defend if you haven't seen him before. You have Rocket Watts still doing his thing, actually playing better for once in his career. Got these like JUCO guys, Buru. I can't say his last name. He's just debuted, so he's really athletic. You have Isaiah Jones from Detroit Mercy, who's it's a really like unorthodox, unique team. I think it's working in their favor. And it's like hard for teams to prepare for. And they play that weird, funky zone on the other end of the floor. So it's just like, maybe in conference play, it won't be as dominant, but for these non-conference foes, there's just a lot of like, it's like a fun house of mirrors, Kai. That's just, it's tough to prep for.
So Kai, coming out of the tournament for Oakland, they've got at Xavier on Monday and then at Detroit. Obviously no travel early there for Oakland.
Yeah.
I feel like those are two good continue to back spots for Oakland, regardless of what happens here in the tournament over Tuesday as we record and Wednesday. I'm not super sold on Xavier as a big favorite right now, given their roster limitations. And then Detroit is bad. So give me Oakland there.
I agree. So teams that are still very good. So we're going top cover margins now. These teams haven't played 5 games yet, so they can't be 5-0, but they're all undefeated against the spread, and they are sporting the best average cover margins in the country. Number 1, I'm shocked if you told me this in the preseason, it's Evansville. Evansville is covering by 19 points per game this season in 3 games. They've been objectively awesome. I talked to David Ragland, their head coach, this offseason, and he was certainly more confident heading into the year, but I think even he would be surprised by their start. Terrific defensive team thus far. Competition, not great, but still impressive from a relative lens. Pitt has looked amazing. They're 4-0 against the spread with a plus 18 cover margin. Iowa State has looked incredible. They are 4-0 with a plus 16 cover margin. And then BYU, the new Big 12 team on the block, is also 4-0, 16-point cover margin. All 4 teams I sort of buy as being better than last year, Matt. Even Pitt, a team that I wasn't necessarily high on, but their freshman guards, Lowe and Carrington, they're legit. And if they are legit, then this team is quite good.
Yeah, Pitt was, they're better than last year. I think there's no question. They've beaten some not just some good mid-major team, like Binghamton, I think is kind of a good team, and they just destroyed them. So yeah, I think Pitt's very real. Evansville's questionable. Like, I don't think it's a really talented team, and they were really good in non-conference last season, but they have more talent than last year. So maybe that upholds. I don't know. Iowa State, I'm sort of still wait and see if that's going to continue to sustain against big boy competition. We haven't seen them really play anyone legit yet.
They have
And
played
BYU.
the worst schedule in the country.
So yeah,
362nd.
I'm
no
still
one's played
buying.
worse
I don't
teams.
care. I'm buying.
Oh,
I'm
I
buying.
am too. I think they're like actually a top 15 team. They're getting some scoring from my guy Momkilovich, the freshman. So yeah, Matt, sorry to interrupt you, but I just
No,
had
you're
to
good. No,
support your
I'm in
point
the
there.
same take though for BYU. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
So I guess you look at these through both lenses of the crystal ball, I suppose, as you try and predict them going forward. Jim.
And BYU, I think we've kind of heard inklings that their staff knows the value of winning by a ton and amping up those metrics and looking better in the net all the way down the road. Like the implications of that, I think that's why they win by 57 over Houston Christian and 57 over Southeast Louisiana instead of 40. Like there's just a little bit in there where the efficiency margin matters in the net stuff. But I love the BYU coming into the year, Kai. I don't know if they're top 15 good where Ken Palm has them slotted right now, but I think they're going to continue to be a force to be reckoned with. They've got, starting on Thanksgiving, the Vegas showcase that they're in, where they take on Arizona State first. And then I think they continue to roll through that event, Vandy and NC State on the other side. I think that's a BYU 2-0, likely 2-0 against the spread.
I agree. Love it. All right. We're finishing up with the bad teams against the spread. The 0-5 Slugs. And oh no, all of our alma maters are on this list. Oh gosh.
That is insane. How's that possible?
Matt went to Indiana. And as I said, Jim and I went to Mizzou. They are both 0-5 against the spread, against the closing number. That is Indiana sporting a -8 cover margin, Mizzou a -9.5 cover margin. Not great, Bob. And then Georgia Southern also 0-5 against the spread. Now, they did cover a certain number if you got a better line the other day, but they also have a -8 cover margin. Not good. And then Charleston 0-5 with a -10 cover margin, a team that has been shooting just awful so far this season, and they kind of live or die by the 3. So if you're not making shots, you're dying if you're Charleston, and they have thus far. So Jim, your thoughts on this group here?
Well, Kai, I might be a unicorn because I've won a bet on 2 of these teams,
right?
Which is insane.
I
had a
closing line value
-1.5 at Minnesota, and they won by 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a Charleston decent line price against Coastal Carolina, where that line moved like 4 points, so it crossed over a bunch of numbers and landed right in the middle. But yeah, I mean, I want to focus, Matt, on our 2 alma maters. I think they both have serious issues. Indiana might not be a top 100 team. Their offense is horrific. They have no shooting. And if you're going to have no shooting, you've got to have really engaged big men that are locked in and dominating at all times. And Indiana's are loafers. Like they are not really guys that are constantly engaged and making plays for you on both ends, like TJD did for him last year. And man, Missouri, like I said, they just don't know who's good on their team right now. They're trying to figure out what the right lineup combinations are. And it hasn't been pretty thus far. And I fear what's going to happen to them when they go to Fog Allen Fieldhouse. Oh, it's going to be.
Yeah, Indiana's
Matthew.
a bad team. I don't have anything else to add. It's funny because like the offense is horrible. Like the defense is what's supposed to be the backbone of this team, and they do guard at times, but then they do some really stupid, intellectually just awful things that doesn't give them any sort of foundation to build upon. So there's going to be bright spots for IU, I think, like Malik Renew was good against UConn, but yeah, there's question marks here. I also worry about just kind of the chemistry, just to be honest, as I just kind of see some of the body language out there. Kai, you talked this, like talking shit to Army was kind of a lame look. Like, not only is it like know who you're playing against, like in terms of competition, but like just like of all people to like the future leaders of our military, like maybe don't talk shit to Army as a 30-point favorite. Anyway, I digress. Charleston's interesting. I think they'll be better late. I just think there's a lot of new, a lot of young, especially, right? That was kind of the formula for Kelsey's recipe last year was older, deeper bench. This year, that bench is like mostly freshmen. I think he's kind of struggling to find out who to pick it, plug and play there.
Hi, this is prisoner of the moment take, but you might agree with it. Is Mackenzie Mbako the worst 5-star freshman you've ever seen?
Well, I remember Skal Labissiere, but yes,
Skal.
He's one of the worst. It's motor, man, and I've never really been a big motor guy, like as a criticism. But my gosh, he just stands straight up on defense. It's pretty clear. This team has the classic like blame each other for plays that you made a mistake on, like that sort of thing. They kind of have that vibe. So I kind of agree with Matt with the chemistry angle there. I
don't think Xavier Johnson is your veteran leader, the guy who like had to leave Pitt because he had clashes with teammates, and he's one of the culprits for talking shit to Army. I don't think he's a real good tone setter, and that concerns me for a team besides him that's pretty darn young.
Yeah, so keep fading. Lastly, the worst cover margin in the country. So again, these teams haven't played 5 games. They're doing really bad against the spread. Dartmouth, a -18 cover margin, 0-2. Grambling State, -17 cover margin at 0-3. And then Buffalo, guys. Team you might want to discuss a little bit here, -16.5. Matt, talk about Buffalo, buddy.
I don't have a lot to say. I think the fan forums have said all that need to be said about this team. It doesn't look
tell
pretty.
the listeners what the fan forums have said.
They think it's the worst defense they've seen in their long tenure as Buffalo basketball fans. Now they've had some really strong years. I mean, it's a good program. Nate Oates, Bobby Hurley, even Jim Weitzel was not up to that standard, but he was fielded some competitive rosters for sure. We've kind of made fun at the former Jay Wright assistants, great coach, retire. All of his former lieutenants have found their way into head coaching thrones. Most of them have failed, I would say. And I think while it's so early and impossible to make any sort of real determination here, the early signs are not great for the running Bulls up there in upstate New York.
Yeah, that team is bad. It's got nightmare outcome written up. Matt, you said in our internal group chat, you're worried it has like a Tulsa kind of floor to it, where for the listeners, Tulsa went 4-24 against the spread last year. That is not straight up against the spread. 4-24. That is like impossible to do. Buffalo might just keep underperforming expectations. They're already down to 322nd in KenPom. That would be by far their worst finish in a long time on that website. I think this is a very much be careful what you wish for when the fans wanted Whitesell gone and they bring in Halkovich, who just this looks like just a complete toxic waste dump.
Yes, I totally agree. I will be fading Buffalo for the foreseeable future. Dartmouth, kind of a weird one. I don't really believe they're that bad. They kind of got blown out in their first game. And Grambling State, they might be that bad. I didn't see a lot of fight from them thus far, but hey, it's early. These are overreactions till we get a little bit bigger sample size. We're seeing 2-3 games of some of these teams. That's what we do. We speculate here on the Big Bets on Campus podcast. And thank you out there for joining us. Again, we're coming to you every single week, Wednesday morning, 3-man weave crew. So thanks to BetMGM, and we will see you next time. Good luck on your bets.